In a quiet area of California, far from the sea, there was suddenly a commotion. Early in the morning, people found the ground in the middle of the road broken, as if something extremely heavy and long had crawled its way through. The marks were so deep that it seemed impossible for them to have been made by tires or any machine. The police arrived, a forensic team was called, photos were taken, but no one could determine who or what had made them. Within just a few hours, the area was sealed off and questions hung in the air. Among the crowd was an investigative journalist named Ethan. He could sense mysteries from afar, but as soon as he tried to get closer, government officials firmly pushed him back. On his way back, his eyes suddenly caught a strange fragment buried in the soil. It wasn't an animal bone, but looked like dry, scaly skin, just like a snake's. In that moment, something stirred inside Ethan. Faint childhood memories began to surface in his mind, as if he had seen something like this long ago. At that very moment, the old locket hanging on his chest grew slightly warm. His heartbeat quickened, and everything started to spin. In the next instant, the story jumped back 15 years. Ethan was a small child then, standing with his father in an old antique shop in the city. His father had come to sell an ancient sword, but Ethan was more interested in the strange objects tucked away in the corners of the shop. Amidst the dusty shelves, he spotted a small closed box. As soon as he touched it, the box opened on its own without a sound. Inside was a shining, scale-like object, and in a flash, it turned into light and merged into Ethan's chest. The shop owner, Jack, was stunned to see this. The very next second, Jack started to act. Clutching his chest, he sat down on the floor as if he was having a heart attack. Ethan's father panicked and immediately started to call for an ambulance. Jack stopped him, saying to just get some medicine from the nearby medical shop. There was no need for an ambulance. In reality, he wanted to be alone with Ethan. As soon as his father stepped out, Jack's expression changed. He sat Ethan down beside him and began to tell a story that could not be found in any book. He explained that there are giant serpents in the world called Imoogi who have remained hidden from human eyes for centuries. Every 500 years, one of them gets the chance to become a spiritual dragon, but the condition is that it must have spent its entire life doing only good. Jack went on to say that this transformation comes at a price. At the same time, a girl is born who possesses a divine energy called Yuh Yi Joo. Without this energy, the Imoogi can never become a dragon, and now, after many years, the cycle was beginning again. But every tale has its darkness. In this story, that darkness was Buraki. For centuries, his eyes had been fixed on only one thing, the power of Yuh Yi Joo. In every cycle, he tried to obtain it, and this time his intention was the same. The only difference was that this time, the heavens had allowed that divine energy to be born in a remote city in Korea. There, a warrior named Haram and his master Bochun remained ever vigilant to protect her. But eventually, even Buraki caught wind of her location, and his hunt began once more. Jack tells Ethan that 500 years ago, a daughter was born in the house of the ruler of that same city, and her name was Narin. From birth, she had a dragon-shaped mark on her shoulder. Bochun had already warned the king that when Narin turned 20, a spiritual power would awaken within her that could change the balance of the entire world. Time passed, Narin grew up, and during that time, Bochun appointed his most trusted disciple, Haram, to protect her. Living together, a deep bond formed between the two, one they both understood but could never put into words. Sometime later, Bochun decided to tell Haram the whole truth. He took him to the seashore, where a gigantic creature was hidden in a meditative state, soon to transform into a spiritual dragon. There, Bochun entrusted Haram with a divine locket, the very same locket that, in the flow of time, would eventually reach Ethan. That night, everything changed. Buraki, who had been waiting for this moment for centuries, attacked the city with his army. The streets ran red with blood, houses burned, and screams echoed everywhere. The sole purpose of his army was to find Narin. When they finally managed to capture her, her father was killed right before her eyes. As Narin was being dragged away, Bochun used the last of his strength. He single-handedly launched a magical attack on Buraki's army and somehow managed to free Narin, entrusting her to Haram. Haram fled the city with Narin and hid in a cave among the mountains. There, he told Narin that her life was not just her own, but was tied to a much greater purpose. A while later, a wounded Bochun also managed to reach them. But on the way, he found Haram's locket lying on the ground. He realized that things had spiraled out of control. Meanwhile, as Haram tried to move forward with Narin, Buraki appeared before them once again. There was no way back. In front of them was only a high cliff and the raging sea below. Haram took Narin's hand, looked into her eyes for a moment, and without a word, the two of them jumped. Their sacrifice was made for one reason alone, so that the power of Yuh Yi Joo would never fall into Buraki's hands. Even if it meant giving up their lives, they were determined to ensure that Yuh Yi Joo's power would never fall into Buraki's hands. After revealing all this, Jack unveils another layer before Ethan. He says that he is not an ordinary human, but the reincarnation of Master Bochin himself, and that Ethan is actually Haram, who has been given one last chance in this life to complete his unfinished story. Jack makes it clear that now Ethan must find the girl named Sarah, who will have the same ancient dragon birthmark on her shoulder, the same mark, the same power, the same destiny. Emerging from the storm of memories, Ethan goes straight to his friend Bruce and asks him to help find Sarah. Hearing this, Bruce pauses and explains that finding someone based on just a name is nearly impossible. In a city like Los Angeles, the name Sarah is so common that there must be countless girls with that name. But the anxiety was clearly visible on Ethan's face, as if he was certain that time was running out. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Sarah was watching news about that same giant mark on TV. The images on the screen began to frighten her. Even though she couldn't quite understand what was happening, an inexplicable fear settled in her heart. Without telling her friend anything, she quickly headed home. Once she arrived, she began pulling out old books from her closet. The yellowed pages contained stories from hundreds of years ago, prophecies, warnings, and signs that only deepened her fear as she read them. A little while later, her friend Brandy came home and saw that Sarah had put up paper amulets and strange symbols all over the house, as if she were trying to ward off something unseen. Brandy laughed and said she was just being paranoid, but Sarah's heart refused to be convinced. That very night, chaos erupted in the city. Buraki, that same terrifying serpent, had entered Los Angeles. Destruction was spreading through the streets. People were running for their lives. In a zoo, it killed an elephant, and news of its terror began to spread like wildfire. Meanwhile, Sarah began having terrifying nightmares. Along with her troubled sleep, she started experiencing unbearable pain in her shoulder. Panicking, she called an ambulance and was taken to the hospital. When Brandy found out that Sarah was in the hospital, she went to visit her, but visiting hours were already over. After being turned away at the reception, she went to Sarah's house to get her some clothes. There, Sarah's boyfriend also arrived. The two were talking inside, when suddenly the ground began to shake. As soon as they stepped outside, they saw that the monster was advancing straight toward them. Brandy screamed and started running, but she couldn't escape. The giant snake caught her and threw her into the pool, and that's where she lost her life. The next morning, Ethan received some news. The report stated that a young woman had died in an attack by a giant snake. As soon as he saw the location, his heart sank. It was the same address, Sarah's house. He thought that perhaps he was too late. But when he arrived at the scene and saw the body, he felt both relief and confusion. The girl was not Sarah. From the neighbors, he learned that Sarah had already been taken to the hospital before the attack. As soon as he heard this, Ethan rushed to the hospital without wasting a moment. When he arrived, he was stopped from going inside. The nurse told him that Sarah had been placed in quarantine because she had a deep wound on her shoulder and there was a risk of infection. Even though he gave his name, he was still not allowed to go inside. Ethan, feeling restless, started looking for another way in. During this time, he met a doctor who was greatly impressed by his reporting. Taking advantage of this recognition, the doctor quietly led him to Sarah's room. As soon as Ethan entered the room, he saw Sarah sitting silently on the bed, with the same fear in her eyes that he himself was feeling. Without beating around the bush, Ethan told her the truth. He said that the fear eating away at her from inside was absolutely justified, and that this place was no longer safe. He warned her that they needed to leave immediately, because Bra had now reached the hospital. At that very moment, the same doctor came running to them and without asking any questions told them to get out right away. The situation was such that even a second's delay could cost them their lives. Ethan grabbed Sarah's hand and ran toward the exit. While running, another truth comes to light. That doctor was none other than Jack himself, the same man who had come into Ethan's life during his childhood. For all these years, he had been watching over both of them in different disguises. Somehow, Ethan and Sarah make it out of the hospital and jump straight into Bruce's car. Without asking anything, Bruce slams on the accelerator because the rampaging Bra was chasing them from behind. They leave the hospital behind, but the danger still looms over them. While speeding down the road, Bruce's car suddenly hits a man. When they get out to look, their souls are shaken to the core. He was no ordinary man, but Buraki general who had been given only one task, to capture Sarah alive. Ethan and Bruce try to stop him, but his magical coach renders every attack useless. The situation had completely spiraled out of control when suddenly another car comes speeding in and crashes forcefully into the general, throwing him far away. The woman who gets out of the car wastes no time and tells Ethan and Sarah to get inside, then drives them away from there. After driving a short distance, she drops them off at a safe place and then, in front of everyone, transforms herself back into Jack's true form. It becomes clear that he is still fulfilling his duty. After some time, Ethan and Sarah arrive at the seaside. Amidst the sound of the waves, Sarah was completely confused. The dreams, the signs, the attacks, everything had become a terrifying puzzle for her. She started to feel as if her own mind was no longer supporting her. Ethan tries to reassure her and suggests that they visit a psychology professor who specializes in bringing repressed memories to the surface. He promises her that no matter what happens, he will not leave her side. Amidst this trust, the two grow closer and kiss each other by the seaside. But deep inside, a silent fear is growing in Ethan's heart. If Sarah truly is Yuh Yi Joo's guardian, then history bears witness that her fate never ends happily. Meanwhile, the continuous attacks in the city had shaken the government to its core. Now, all suspicion was directly pointed at Sarah. The mission commander clearly tells his officers that if the situation doesn't come under control, they'll have no choice but to eliminate Sarah. On the other hand, General Buraki starts summoning one monster after another into this world with the help of the ancient secrets of the scrolls. Now he had an entire army, with only one goal: to capture Sarah. The government doesn't lag behind either, and sends its special forces to attack Buraki's lair. But as soon as that giant creature appears before them in its true form, the soldiers lose their courage. They fire bullets, but they have no effect. In an instant, Buraki's general wipes out the entire team with his magical attacks. Meanwhile, the professor begins to unlock the memories buried deep in Sarah's mind. Layer by layer, memories from her childhood and even from previous lives start to return, and along with them, her spiritual powers awaken. A bright light fills the room, leaving Ethan stunned at the sight. When Sarah regains consciousness, exhaustion and fear are clearly visible on her face, but there is now a different kind of sparkle in her eyes. Her awakened power has not only revived her memories, but has also awakened Buraki. Through that light, Buraki has discovered their location. Now, the situation is such that they have no place left to hide, only to run because the hunter has found its prey. After that, there is no time left to regain control of the situation. Ethan grabs Sarah's hand, and the two of them run out of the house to save their lives. Somehow they find a car and try to get as far away from the city as possible. Behind them, Buraki is wreaking havoc as he chases after them. The roads were breaking apart, buildings were shaking, as if the entire city had come under his wrath. By luck, they end up in a residential area where the destruction was a bit less. There, Ethan calls Bruce and tells him bluntly that staying on the ground now is like inviting death. They need a helicopter immediately. A little while later, they meet Bruce in a small restaurant. Without asking any questions, he gives them the necessary supplies and tells them that a helicopter is ready on the roof of the news channel building. But Bra was not someone to give up so easily. He attacked the entire building. The walls began to collapse, the glass started shattering, and he came straight towards them. Ethan and Sarah are once again forced to run. Meanwhile, the police arrive at the scene and start firing at the snake. His attention is diverted for a few moments, and this proves to be the most precious opportunity for Ethan and Sarah. They run through the heart of the city towards the news building. Chaos was everywhere. People were running away screaming, cars were flying through the air, fire had spread all around, yet somehow both of them managed to reach the roof of the building where a helicopter was waiting for them. But as soon as the helicopter takes off, Buraki arrives there as well. He grabs the helicopter with his massive jaws. The situation becomes so dire that Ethan and Sarah have to jump. The moment they leap, the helicopter crashes down and shatters into pieces. Dark clouds gather in the sky, and Buraki roars in triumph. He is about to swallow Sarah when the US military arrives on the scene. Fighter jets and tanks begin raining missiles. Enraged, Buraki starts destroying the military helicopters, but under the heavy assault, he falls to the ground. Just then, the terrifying armies of monsters and dragon-like creatures that came with him invade the city. Fireballs rain down, helicopters fall one after another, and on the ground, monsters attack the police. The entire city turns into an open battlefield. Amidst this chaos, Ethan and Sarah somehow manage to escape the building. Outside, some government agents are waiting for them, claiming to be helpers, and take them to an underground facility. There, a senior officer tells Ethan that they are aware of this ancient prophecy and that their plan from the beginning was to kill Sarah so that everything would end right there. But suddenly, the situation changes. Another agent suddenly shoots his own colleague and signals Ethan and Sarah to run. Handing them a key, he says that Sarah must stay alive, because now the future of the world depends on her. Without wasting any time, Ethan and Sarah head towards the Mexico border. On the way, Sarah says in a low voice that wherever she goes, Buraki will find her. And Ethan realizes that this fight is not over yet. Both of them are still wondering what to do next, when suddenly several dragons descend from the sky and start raining fireballs on their car. With a loud explosion, the car flips over on the road. The impact is so strong that Ethan loses consciousness right there. When he comes to, everything has changed. His hands and feet are tied to a pole, and all around him stands Buraki's terrifying army. On the other side, Sarah is dragged to a high platform and tied to a stone altar. The whole atmosphere is filled with fear and noise. Buraki's soldiers start chanting his name, as if this is not a sacrifice but a celebration. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake. A massive door opens, and from behind it, Buraki himself emerges. Seeing him, Sarah screams in terror. Ethan can only shout helplessly. He can't do anything, but at that moment, the locket hanging around his neck begins to shine brightly. A brilliant light bursts forth like lightning, and a terrifying bolt of lightning strikes from the sky, instantly burning the entire monster army to ashes. After a few seconds of silence, Buraki rises again. In anger, he throws Ethan far away and heads straight for Sarah. Just then, the ground splits open and another giant serpent appears. His name was Imoogi. As soon as he arrives, he grabs Buraki and hurls him away. A battle begins between the two, the likes of which the earth has never seen before. During the fight, Buraki sinks his teeth into Imoogi's neck. Seeing this, Sarah realizes that there is no other way to survive now. To save the world, she must sacrifice herself. She closes her eyes and releases the power of Yuh Yi Joo hidden within her into the sky. As soon as Buraki moves towards that energy, Sarah, with all her strength, pushes it towards Imoogi. Imoogi swallows Yuh Yi Joo. In the very next moment, his body begins to transform. He sheds his old skin and emerges as a divine spiritual dragon. The sky echoes with his roar. Now it was Buraki's turn. He tries to fight, but in front of this new power, he cannot stand. Imoogi, now transformed into a dragon, launches a massive fireball into Buraki's mouth. Buraki burns from within, turning to ashes, and is destroyed forever. After many centuries, Imoogi had finally won this battle. The dragon approaches Sarah and returns the power of Yuh Yi Joo. Sarah's body begins to transform into a shining light, and she merges into that divine energy. In the very next moment, the dragon soars high into the sky and gradually disappears among the clouds. Ethan watches all of this unfold before his eyes. The pain of losing Sarah turns into tears streaming down his face. Just then, Jack's voice comes from behind. He simply says, "You made the right decision." With that, he too dissolves into the air and vanishes. Ethan is left alone, but he knows that he has laid the foundation for a new beginning, a world where the future of humanity is now safer than ever before. And with this, the story comes to its end. If you liked this story, don't forget to like the video. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, because I'll keep bringing you more such fascinating stories. We'll meet again with a new story. Until then, goodbye.